Welcome to Therapist Spotlight.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anta's Therapist Spotlight, the podcast where we aim to showcase our wonderful members to the wider community. I'm your host, Joshua Brooks, and with us today is a lovely Peter Mullen. Peter is a naturopath and has a clinic down in New South Wales, so I'm sure this is going to be a great conversation. He also does a lot with mentoring, and he does a lot with Integrity and Metagenics companies, so he's just a wealth of knowledge. I believe you've been in the industry for quite a while too, Peter, so I look forward to sharing everything you've got. So how are you going?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Josh. And thanks for the opportunity today.
Oh, it's absolutely our pleasure. So the first question, how did you get into natural health?
Look, that's a good question. And I've been, as you were referring to, we've been in practice here in Newcastle for, I think, 32 years this year. So,
Wow.
Yeah, a long time. So when I first came, I grew up in a family where health was, something that we talked about. We all took vitamins and mineral supplements for years while I was still at school and high school, etc. And yeah, somehow it just happened that when I finished my HSC back in 1983, long time ago.
Yep. I wasn't even born then.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for bringing that up. So somehow I decided, a friend of my mother's, her daughter was doing naturopathy at the then New South Wales College of Natural Therapies in Sydney. And in those days, it was a private college. And I think it cost $4,000 a year. So my parents paid $16,000, which was a lot of money back then for me to go to college and study to become a naturopath. And the college was behind Broadway in Glebe. And I'm not sure whether another college is there now, but so a long time ago.
Yeah. And so 32 years is an epic time to be in the industry. I guess I would really like to know, have you seen the industry change, and what keeps you going for that long? What really grabs you and has kept you going and producing and practicing for 32 years? That's amazing.
Look, again, more good questions. Well, basically, for me, we do a lot of social media stuff. We do a lot of webinars and podcasts ourselves. And one thing that I've noticed, and I often say this in my talks, that, over that 30 years, health's really changed a lot. My talks these days, I often say, if you don't have an autoimmune condition these days, you're really not trying hard enough when it comes to having bad health. Health's a lot more complex than what it used to be. Patients are a lot more complex. Life's a lot more complex. Our diet's a lot more processed and refined, and our diet's changed a lot in 30 years, believe it or not. Like, it's happened so insidiously that we all just accept the fact that, we can be eating cherries from Coles or Woolies and they might be 4 years old by the time we get to them. Yeah. So, we've sort of been dumbed down when it comes to food. We've just all accepted that this is all the norm now. But health's really changed a lot. And what still inspires me, what I love most about what I do is I sort of see myself as a relationship practitioner. Like, I'm really big on developing a good relationship with my patients. And I think having that genuine desire to really help understand what's going on for them, how they've arrived there, where they are, and help them work out a plan of how they're going to get their health back on track again. I think that's what even to this day still inspires me the most. Seeing people, make such dramatic changes with their health. But, really, I love being part of that journey of them becoming well.
And so there's obviously been a little bit more of a shift in our focus to being well. I mean, natural therapies are starting to finally gain the traction I think they deserve. Have you noticed that yourself with the 32 years? Like, are you getting more clients that you wouldn't necessarily have expected or that you would have seen sort of 30 years ago?
Well, look, we've been fortunate as a practice. Like, I'm as busy now as I was 32 years ago.
Yeah, wow, awesome, excellent.
So when I started working in the practice that I then ended up buying, they were already a practice that had been established in 1958. Using tissue salts and mineral formula. So I sort of started in a practice that was already used to being busy. And for me and for my wife, Dana, that we've always run the practice as we just expect that our books are fully booked. My books are fully booked all the time.
Yeah.
And that's just been our motto ever since. But so we're just as busy as ever. But what's really fantastic, and it's a double-edged sword, is everybody is a lot more au fait these days with, say, gut health.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, you see all the media explosion talking about gut health and microbiome, and you know, everyone's become an instant gut expert overnight. And as I said, good and bad, because now people are Googling and Dr. Googling and treating themselves. And you know, I find with health conditions being so complex these days, people really need someone that's going to be their advocate. That's how I see our role as naturopaths developing more strongly. Is we need to be, I think we need to be the patient's advocate to come to us to help them to sort of even navigate which specialist they really need to be seeing, or what test their doctor needs to be sending them for, because no one in the healthcare industry these days really seems to be that pivotal person in someone's health plan or their family's health plan that gives them the confidence of how to navigate all of that. So, yeah, for me, you know, it's been great that everyone's more educated, because people come in and say, I think I've got a problem with my microbiome. So it's good that they're more educated, but there's a lot of misleading information out there as well that makes it a bit trickier as well. And still the biggest challenge for our profession, I always think, is that when someone comes to see us as a naturopath, like, we're asking them, based on whatever testing we do, etc., we're asking them to go home and make changes around their diet, you know, increase or change their exercise pattern, take often, you know, strong tasting herbal medicines, and get into a routine of taking supplements. So our biggest challenge these days is, apart from, you know, Dr. Google, I guess, is we really need to be able to then be health coaches and help our patients make these changes, then stick to the changes for a long enough period of time that they're actually going to become well. Yeah. So, yeah, so people still do seem to want the quick fix, because I think that's the other part of education. Everyone thinks that there's a pill for an ill, you know, for arthritis, and a probiotic for irritable bowel, and, you know, we know it's a lot more complex than that. But yeah, that's still the biggest challenge, is encouraging patients to see us regularly for long enough for the education, but more importantly for them to implement the changes.
I guess that's why what you're saying is so important, that relationship with the client, getting them to trust you, building that rapport, so you can start to talk to them and you can actually start to have them open up a little bit more. And maybe, you know, some stress that they haven't talked to you when they come through the door can be a whole big thing with the gut. So, like, not saying, but it may not be necessarily a huge microbiome problem. It could be a stress, or it could be, you know, they're not eating properly, or they're just woofing down their dinner rather than, you know, sitting and relaxing. And they could think that it's this big problem, but until you sort of start to chat to them and get to know them and they open up, it could be this whole other big thing that they're not looking at.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the challenge, isn't it? Is, like, I always ask the patient, you know, what do you think's causing this, or what do you think's contributing to this? Like, you know, trying to engage them in the process of, you know, really them being the one that takes on ownership or responsibility for what's going on. Yeah. And I think that's, unless you develop a relationship with the patient, unless that patient comes to see you for 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, it can take that long sometimes just to really help them really accept the fact that even if they're stressed. Like, so many of our patients that I see, when I talk to them, you know, do you think stress could be a bigger problem for you than what you realise? You know, a lot of them will say, no, I've got nothing to be stressed about. And I always explain to them that, you know, your nervous system when you were 20, you know, you might have sat at, say, 5 out of 10 as a baseline, but what happens over time? It's like someone's turned the volume up on your car. So now you're a 7 all the time. And they sort of do the same thing. They say, oh, yeah, maybe the fact that I'm, you know, rest of the night time, or my brain's always thinking, or I've always got to be on the go and doing stuff. So, you know, our job's a great job in that we can really help people to start to listen, get out of their head and start to listen to what's going on in their body.
So I guess I guess that's one of the advantages a little bit of a natural health practitioner is you can look at the whole landscape of the person, can't you? It's not just sort of, well, like you said, a pill for an ill. It's like, well, how's this affecting this? What part of your life is maybe causing this change? And you can actually start to build up that whole landscape. And then when you've got a nice professional network, like you said, you can sort of, well, maybe you should go and see this specialist. Maybe you should go and see this specialist. We'll take this functional test. We'll take this functional medicine. So you can provide that more holistic care to the patient rather than, just take this pill or take this herb or, jump on out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really good point you make, that we all need to have our own network of professionals that we refer to.
Mm-hmm.
We can't be everything to everyone, because health is so much more complex these days. We need to be able to refer to a good chiro or an osteopath or physiotherapist or whoever, we're getting good results with. We refer so many people to psychologists these days as well for extra help, from how to manage stress or, some tips and tools there. We've gone to the days where, one person can, fix everyone's problems as well. Like, we kind of all need each other to give our patients the best outcome, I think, long term.
Definitely. And that's what it's all about, is how can they implement a healthier lifestyle and live longer, freer, better lives. I mean, really. So if I was a client coming to you, what's your consultation process like? Are you a big herbal guy? Do you like to rearrange diets, have a look at what we're doing? Do you like to give meal plans? Do you like to go straight for the functional tests? Are you much more of a traditional naturopath with iridology? What's the consultation process look like for you, and how do you apply the medicine yourself?
So what I say to patients when I first meet them for the first time, I always say, what I specialize in is helping you work out exactly where your whole health's up to, and that's just my mantra. Like, I like to really help people work out exactly what's going on. Also help them to understand maybe how they've gotten there. Yeah. Because I think once people can sort of understand what's going on, say they have an autoimmune condition and we know for whatever reason there's a genetic predisposition, we know then that it helps them to understand that turmeric isn't going to fix, their rheumatoid arthritis. Like, we need to take a bit of a deeper dive into what's going on. Yeah. And I always do iridology in the first consult. I've always loved iridology. I particularly like Tony Miller's training around iridology. And I find it's one of the quickest ways to really get the person having trust or faith in what I'm telling them. When I'm telling them something about themselves that they haven't, pardon me, told me so far, particularly when it comes to the nervous system and stress. So we'll do, in the initial consult, we do history taking. I'll do iridology. We do a quad scan, which is a body composition test, looks at body fat, muscle mass, and cell health. I'll do a zinc taste test, and sometimes a urine pH test as well. Then I always make sure that they've got current pathology from their GP. If not, I'll send them back to their GP and get updated bloods done from the doctor, because for us naturopaths, standard pathology gives us such a wealth of information about whether they're eating enough protein, whether their metabolism is mildly whether they're too acidic mildly. It tells us where their liver functions, or their liver, if there's a fatty liver. Like, there's so much information that we can now get by reading standard pathology that the doctors don't have the training around. So that, for us, I think gives patients a lot of confidence that we can actually go through there, and they'll all say, "Oh, my doctor's never gone through my pathology with me before and explained what you've just told me there." Like, so many patients, ladies with chronic low ferritin, the doctor said, "No, your hemoglobin's fine, so your iron's fine." So, I always make sure we get updated pathology done. If not, I'll send them back to their GP and get all the pathology done that we need there. And then we do some in-house testing here as well. We do some different types of blood tests. And what I say to patients is, come back in, we'll get some testing done, bring those tests in, and then at your results visit, which is the one after testing. Then I have a full treatment plan worked out, and then I go through with them then exactly what we need to do. I use a lot of nutritionals, and probably 2/3 nutritional, one third rather herbals. But I love my herbs. It's just I get a bit out of sorts and busy, and I'll just prescribe the nutritional stuff, or we'll do a bit of a gut and liver detox in the cleanse first, and then we might start the herbs down the track.
And like, I personally love raw herbs. Like, I think herbs are so good, but I can understand, especially in this day and age, it may be a bit hard to measure out your quantities, especially if you're like at work and if you have to take it 3 or 4 times a day. Sometimes those nutritional supplements fit in a little bit better with our lifestyle.
Yeah,
they can take you can take a magnesium complex or whatever to work and have it if you need it, so like sort of those pills that are a little bit more solid, I guess it can be, makes it a little bit more compliant with taking them. I'm guessing.
But definitely what I love about using the herbs, and we only use MediHerb herbs. What I love about the herbs is that if you can make up a really good formula for someone, that really works well, then they have to come back to you to get it. We will probably lose more business than we realise through people going and buying cheaper, poor quality nutritional formula from the supermarket or wherever, thinking that they're doing themselves a favour, whereas the herbs do. And I sort of think of herbs as like the medicine that really takes what you're trying to do to a whole new level as well. So, that's why I like using the herbs as well as much as I can, but I definitely need to use them more.
And that's such a poignant point that you put on that. The quality matters so much. So people think that they can go to the supermarket and it's the same quality, and it's just not. And without that quality, you're just not going to get the results. You're not going to get the optimized health that you would. And I think that's such an important point to make to people. It's like, this is why we go to practitioners, because they've got the quality herbs, they've got the quality nutritional supplements that you can't get from the supermarket. And it will really upgrade your health to a new level when you start to do that. That's just, it's getting that information out there, I think sometimes is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the space we have to own though, because there's so much competition. Just talking about things from a business point of view, because to be a successful naturopath, you have to be a successful business as well. And I'm very fortunate that my wife runs the whole business side of it. So I get to, train the other practice that we have here, and we also do mentoring with students, but all the day-to-day running of the business is all behind the scenes for me. So I'm very, very fortunate. But we have to really work out what space we want to sort of try and hold on to as practitioners, because otherwise, they can just go and see someone at the health food store, or, they can do something online, or they can, Google it themselves, but people won't get the outcome when the lifestyle changes and the motivation, the encouragement and the support and the rapport to be able to make those changes, if they don't have a really good quality practitioner that can help them with all of that. So, I think we need to really work on educating patients about the quality of supplements, why you see a naturopath, how we're different from just going and seeing everyone else that seems to be doing something similar these days. Yeah,
definitely. And so with that then, how do you organize your treatment plan? Do you have a first initial consultation, then a follow-up, and then sort of whenever you feel like it, or do you prefer to have like a 12-week or 12-plan session where people come in? I guess everyone's a bit different, but how do you like to structure that with your clients, making sure that you do have that health coach and you are in their corner and you are helping them around? What's sort of the model that you guys like to use there?
Well, look, for a long time, I had in my mind that the ideal program would be to come for 6 visits every 2 weeks apart for that first 12 weeks. And while years and years ago, it was probably more successful. Again, everyone seems to be so busy these days.
Yeah.
So I always say to patients that, the body turns over new cells every 6 to 12 weeks. So to start to get any traction with your health, any change you make, you have to make it and hold that change for at least 12 weeks. So after we do the initial consult, a testing appointment and a results visit, what I would say to a patient then is, okay, the next 2 weeks, next 2 appointments, we're going to make 2 weeks apart.
Yep.
And the reason is and I want you to do a food diary for this next 2 weeks or whatever else we're doing. So we'll make 2 weeks, 2 appointments 2 weeks apart. And then after that, if everything's going well, we'll go then a month, and then we'll go then a month. And that'll take us up to that 12-week mark. Yeah. And at that 12-week mark, we might retest one of the tests that we did initially, or we'll redo your bloods then. Mm-hmm. But it's a time frame with the purpose of what we're wanting to retest or recheck at the end of that time. And then, yeah, so in the past, like I would have preferred 3 fortnightly appointments because I prefer that slow drip technique. Like if someone's never drunk water or hasn't drunk water for the last 20 years, if you tell them once, I need you to go home and drink so much water every day and never follow up to see that they've done it, you know, or you're just giving them jobs to do that no one's going to commit to and nothing's changed. So I prefer appointments closer together, but time-wise, yeah, we seem to struggle. So that's generally what we're doing at the moment. And then once we get to that 3-month mark, monthly appointments then until we reach a certain point, and then we might go 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks.
And I guess that's, again, like you're saying, it's so important to educate the public and educate our clients about that, because then we can really start to get on top. And I mean, again, if the magnesium supplement's not quite working with you, because we all know that it can give you a little bit of diarrhea or the runs sometimes, it's like, well, come in and see me within that 2 weeks. We can change the formula. We can do a little bit of a shake, and then we can jump on it before it's like, oh, well, 3 months here, I didn't like that herb, and so I threw it out. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, you know.
I always say to my practice, the most important thing that you need to do or achieve in a consultation with a patient, once they've come in and had their initial testing, is to get them to commit to come back for their next appointment.
Yeah.
If you can't get people coming back, that and also too, supplements last a certain period of time. You're trying to help people retrain themselves and redo new habits. Unless you have a clear idea in your mind of what your treatment schedule actually looks like. And the thing is, you know, we can have all the plans under the sun, but only a certain percentage of people will take us up with that plan, and that's fine. Not everybody wants to do the full-on plan, but unless the prac's really clear about what he or she thinks works the best for patients getting good health, and that's where we all come from.
Yeah.
If you're too wishy-washy with your rescheduling, then you're stuck before you even start. That's the most important job, is to get the person to come back for their next appointment.
And I guess that's one of the things that's a bit funny in this natural health space, because a lot of people are coming from a nice, like, heart-centered space, I guess, if you want to call it, but it does do your patients a little bit of a disservice if you're not teaching them, no, the follow-up and possibly a couple more sessions is very important, because we have to get this right. We have to start moving it, and just being like, oh, it's okay, come in when you want. That's not quite necessarily the best option for the client themselves. You may think it is, but yeah, it can put them in this different space where it's like, no, we need you in here. We've got to have a look at your levels. We've got to make sure everything's working. And it's really is training the client, like teaching the client and educating them that it is in their best interest for optimal outcome to keep rolling with us.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's and that's why looking at standard pathology is so important as well, because you're looking at levels that you're actually prescribing something that you want to see improve in those levels, as well as the patient feeling well. Yeah. Like I'll see a patient and they'll come in and they'll have terrible ferritin, and we look back on their bloods and they've had terrible ferritin for 4 years or something ridiculous that no one's picked up on. Or they'll say, yeah, the doctor told me to take an iron supplement, and I took the iron supplement for 2 weeks or a month. But no one told them that you need to take it for at least 12 weeks. You know, and if your red bloods, if your hemoglobin's down or your red cells are too small, that can take 3 months or 6 months. So it's all education, and unless we're seeing people regularly enough to educate them, we can't do it all in one consult, because we all know that, you know, us included, will take on so much of what happens in the consult, and the rest all goes out the window. So education and being really clear from a practitioner point of view, being really clear and confident in the way you lay out someone's schedule of appointments, the way you explain it, what you know is the best, is going to give the patient the best outcome in the shortest period of time.
And so we were talking a little bit about this as well. Your other part of your business is mentoring clients. So can you please give us a little bit of how you do that, what you do, what you like to do? Sorry, not clients, practitioners. So how you like to take them in, what you like to do, how that sort of works as part of your business?
Yeah, look, it's something that we've been doing for years. We've given a lot of students their clinic hours over the years. More than happy for students to, particularly if they're really keen to see how a practice actually operates. I think a lot of practitioners coming out of college may not have an idea of how great it is working in a practice or running a practice that's really busy and successful as well, that you can make a really good living out of it as well from a business point of view. I don't know what so we do a lot of hours with students, and we also offer mentoring as well, where someone can come and spend 3 days sitting with me, meeting with Dana and our marketing team to find out what they're doing. So if someone wants to get a really good overall or bird's eye view of exactly how practice works or how practice can work, so we have a lot of great tips and things that we've worked out over the years as well. So we're happy for someone to come. We're happy to share, answer any questions they have. Come and spend the 3 days, I think it is, with us, and then ongoing support after that if they feel like they need ongoing support as well. But I think it's good, particularly for the new practice. But even if practice have been in practice for a while, I've always done that myself. I've had a really good friend that I used to go and every couple of years go and sit in with her for a couple of days. And you hear people explain things differently, and you think, oh, that's a good analogy, and I liked how you said that. And I think you and I were talking about this to start with, as a community, where we get busy and we get busy doing our own thing, and then we do become a bit isolated. So I think it's good to sit in and see what other practitioners are doing, and so that's a part of being a naturopath now that I'm really enjoying as well, is being able to give back to other practitioners coming through, or new ones starting off. But as I said, even practitioners who have been in practice for a while that want to have a bit of a look at things, or a revamp or a rethink about how they do things, for sure.
Definitely. And I know for myself, I'm not a super personable person. So when I got into practice, it was, talking with clients was a real edge for me, and it was really difficult explaining and talking. But having a few other practitioners who were really good at that and talking to them about it and how do I get it, actually helped me phenomenally to be able to explain. And so I think that's just such a wonderful gift that you can give to people. And again, like you said, having a successful business and being able to be a naturopath full time, again, it's a skill that we've got, and it's a skill that we're applying, and you should never feel guilty for making a living off your skills. It's kind of like this weird thing that's through the industry, isn't it? But at the end of the day, we've paid a lot of money for our training. We've got qualifications, and we're applying a skill. So yeah, this whole weird business thing, I think, is a bit funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It seems to be a bit endemic in our industry, and that's why I think it's good for people to see practices like we have at the moment. And I know there's bigger practices in Australia, but we have 2 other practitioners working here as well as myself. We have, I think, 4 what we call care assistants who run our front office. We have a testing person that does our testing. Dana, my wife, works in the business. We also have 3 girls that do part-time marketing work with her as well. So that's the other thing that's changed. Like in the past, when we first started, we all used to run off our laurels as naturopaths that we're a referral-based practice only. We get all our business is word of mouth, and our biggest referral is still word of mouth. But with other practices coming through, we've had to jump on board with Facebook and doing podcasts and websites and all of that sort of stuff. But it's kind of nice that, with all that business model that we have, what we're so fortunate is to be in an industry that we all really love working in. We're really helping people make a big difference to their life. So, there's so many benefits to being a naturopath and, in our profession but you'd be stressed and burn out pretty quick if you were worrying about money all the time and where your next patient's going to come from if you don't get those basics in place to start with. So That's really important for me, is that for our industry to survive and to really firmly cement our niche in the whole healthcare system in Australia, like we need successful, busy, confident practitioners that are really getting more and more people on board with, how important it is to always adopt that natural approach as much as possible, and then best of both worlds when that might need to happen.
And you hit the nail on the head. It's like, if you're not busy, you're not getting your word out there, people aren't seeing you, people aren't seeing what you can do for them. So how are you going to expand? How is natural health going to actually show the beautiful potential that it's got to the world if we're not getting the clients through the door, and if we're not, marketing and bringing in and actually showcasing what we can do? It's a bit of a backwards mentality if we're not bringing them into the fold and showing what power we have as natural health practitioners, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that moving forward, I think that's what we've really got to be showcasing more. And, like what you're doing with these podcasts is fantastic, because you're giving people a really good taste of what real life practitioners are doing, around Australia. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the other podcasts you've done as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, it's been absolutely wonderful, Peter. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us.
Yeah, my pleasure, Josh. And I must say, I found you very personable.
Oh, thank you. So for anybody who's looking for you, clients or practitioners, where can they find you? Where's all your socials, and where's your clinic, and how do they contact you?
Yeah, so we're so it's Mullen, Mullen Natural Health Centre. Yeah, we're in Newcastle, New South Wales. And on our website, there's all the information there about becoming a patient, about our mentoring program, and anyone listening, we're more than happy to take any questions or inquiries about anything. And then we're also obviously on Facebook under Mullen Health, and Instagram. They're the main ones I think that we're doing.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on Therapist Spotlight. We really appreciate your time. And anybody out there, please contact Peter and look and see if you can do a mentorship with him, or if you're a client, look and get some great natural health. And for everybody else out there, have a great day, and we'll catch us all later. Thanks very much. Bye now.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you for listening to Therapist Spotlight. If you would like to know more about ANTA, visit us at www.anta.com.au.